Hello again, YouTube. Johnny Justice here again with my BMW M140i. I've owned the car approximately a month now, I think it is. Just under 2,000 miles. So I thought I'd check in again and sort of give you a little bit of a summary of the ownership so far. Some things I've noticed which I really like, other things I find a little bit irritating. It's just had a clean today, so it's looking very shiny. Certainly cleaner than last time I showed it to you. And today is officially the hottest day of the year. A great time to be out in a black car with black leather interior. It's slightly warm in there, 31.5 degrees I think it was. And I also discovered this morning that some kind person had scraped their bumper along my front wing. Thankfully, I was able to cut it out. It was just a very light blemish, but still fucking irritating that there are people out there that have no consideration for other people's cars. I think it happened in the work car park, but yeah, very annoying. But she's looking good. I think in terms of my ownership so far, it's probably an 8.5 out of 10. What do I like about the car? The car is a joy to drive every time I get in it. It sounds good, it looks good. I've not seen another 19 plate Shadow Edition in black. I've seen a blue one, but I haven't seen another black one yet. So it feels like I made a good choice. It's not too common. As you may recall, I came from a Golf R DSG, which I only owned for about a year, to be fair, but that was certainly long enough to understand it and put it through its paces. The way that the BMW differs for me is that with the Golf, everything was very predictable. It was very fast. The throttle response was instantaneous. It cornered amazingly well. It was phenomenally quick. But it was almost too easy to drive. And I think that's why it became a little bit dull, a little bit boring. Amazing car, as I said, in terms of picking up speed. You know, it left everything else behind, but there was just something a little bit uninspiring about the whole thing. Great if that's what you want, don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking the Golf R, it's an amazing car. But equally, I just find that the M140i offers something a little bit different. You get in it, you start her up, the engine sounds great, the exhaust sounds great. I want to drive it. I want to drive it fast. It sounds incredible. It's not as, what's the word? Sorry, I almost got run over by a cyclist. It's not as predictable, I think is a good word, as the Golf. The Golf, you kind of knew what it would do at every point, every turn. Whereas you jump in the BMW, you put it into Sport Plus mode, traction control off, and it's a wild beast. But I like that. That gives it something different. That's not to say that you're going to go into a corner and it's going to throw you off the road, but you need to be on your guard. You need to anticipate these sorts of things. The Golf would just go around that corner, not lose any traction, and would fly out of it. But would it be as enjoyable as in the BMW, where you've got to do the work? It's you that's controlling that car rather than the car doing things for you. These are just my thoughts, by the way, guys. I mean, I'm no expert. I've owned a lot of, how am I, 46 years old. I've owned a lot of hot hatches. Renault Sport Megane RS 250. I've had, obviously, the Golf, Subaru Impreza P1, Honda Integra DC5. I've had numerous Peugeot 306 rallies, GTI 6s. My first ever cars were Mark 1 Golf GTIs. So I've driven a lot of cars that would fall under the sort of hot hatch umbrella. And I just think this car is amazing. It's so much fun. As I mentioned, with respect to the ownership so far, I do, on a week, my commute is probably 8 miles to work, 8 miles back, often through sort of slow motorway traffic, because there's a 50-mile-an-hour zone where I currently live. So I'm typically driving in comfort mode. It's returning combined just under 29 miles per gallon. And pretty often, maybe not daily, but certainly every other day and at weekends, I'm driving it in Sport mode and Sport Plus mode, where obviously the economy is slightly more, not as good. So I think a return of just shy of 29 miles per gallon is decent. I've not done launch control yet. I'm not really bothered about those sorts of things, to be honest. I'm sure I'll give it a try at some point. But day to day, it's a great car to live with. When you're in comfort mode, you don't really hear the exhaust to the same level. So it's just a great car for driving around in, going under the radar, looks like a 1 Series. It really is, for me, the best of both worlds. Because you've got the power on tap when you need it. And if you do just want to drive it around economically, you can very easily. Sorry, that was my finger in the picture there. What else can I tell you? I believe the top speed of these is 155. I believe it's restricted at 155. So I was 5 miles an hour short of that on a private road recently, and it felt great. Whether it was going to hit that 155 restrictor, I don't know, but it felt pretty planted to me at that speed. However, it was a straight road, not a country road. The brakes are very good. What's annoyed me? So there's a very irritating thing with this gearbox. So this is the auto box as well. If you're driving up to a junction or up to a bend and you have to brake fairly heavily, even just brake normally, but the road's clear, you're ready to go again, and you put your foot back on the accelerator, there's a, I don't know how, half a second's hesitation. If that, might not even be that, it might be a quarter of a second, but there's a noticeable lapse. And that's one thing I recall with driving the Golf R in DSG, is that the power was there constantly. You know, whether you'd come off the throttle and went back straight on it, the power was delivered instantly. There's something with the BMW gearbox, and again, this could just be me getting used to driving it, that it doesn't quite do that. So there's this sort of hesitation. And to be honest, I noticed that when I was out on the test drive, because, you know, as I said, I do know my cars, and I've got experience of driving. It was something that I saw or felt and experienced on my test drive, and it was the same, obviously, in the brand new car. So that's just something, obviously, to get used to, and maybe perhaps I need to change my driving style slightly, just to sort of overcome that. What else is annoying? So you're seated very low in the car. Obviously, it's a low sort of low profile, if you like. Getting in and out. I don't know whether you can see just on the door there. So that's my shoes getting in and out. Well, getting out actually, not getting in. It's annoying. Again, that just could be me that needs to perhaps pay a bit more attention when I'm getting in and out, but as I said, I do think that's because it sits very low. There's an error on, not an error, but the electric window on the driver's side. So say the window, I've just put it half down, and then I press the button to close it, it pops down instead of going up for the first time, and then it'll work. So that's kind of irritating. The seats are a great place to be. The air conditioning works brilliantly. The Pro Nav also works very, very well. So the actual navigation system itself is pretty instant, although it can be a little frustrating. It's got voice activated control, which doesn't always work very well. You can also sort of draw on this, I don't know what it's called, but this pad here. So say for example you're looking for somewhere to go, you can actually draw each letter. That can be a bit hit and miss as well. What else? Oh, if anyone knows what, there's a small, I don't know whether you can see it, there's a small dot on the rear mirror in the middle at the top. I don't know what that does. If anyone knows, please let me know. I've transported quite a lot of stuff in it already to the tip. So obviously, you know, it's a good little workhorse as well. Brakes are a little bit squeaky. I did bed them in as I should have done, being brand new, but they can be a little bit squeaky here and there. I haven't noticed the proximity sensor, so my understanding was that this car came with a sort of a warning distance sensor at the front, which if it sensed that you were going too quickly for the traffic ahead of you, so say there was stationary traffic and you were going towards it a bit too quickly and it didn't feel that you were going to brake in time, that would kick in. That hasn't kicked in yet. That could be obviously because I haven't been in that situation, but the Golf was almost a bit too much. The sensor in the Golf was almost a bit too sensitive, and sometimes it would go off for no reason, which was a little bit annoying. Also, I've noticed that the front park sensors, so say for example you drive into a car park and you're parking in a parking space and there's a hedge or another obstacle ahead of you, normally you'd expect the parking sensors just to beep and give you a bit of a warning that you're quite close to whatever that object is. However, it hasn't done it on this. The parking sensors only seem to work if you're parked and then you get back in the car to drive off and you're manoeuvring out of a parking space, then the parking sensors kick in. So they don't seem to be functioning when you just drive into a space as such. So there we go. Another review, hopefully of interest. Look forward to your comments.